Good morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes? Excellent, excellent. I was talking the other day to an economist, which I have to do sometimes in my job. And this economist said to me, CSR, it's not an efficient use of a company's resources. He said, you're putting all of your precious resources into some budget over here so that some of your team can go and paint a wall once a year and you're not measuring the impact, and it's not measured and it's not making the most of skills. I don't see why it has any benefit. I don't know why people are doing it. And I said, yeah, if that's what you think CSR is, yeah. But what if actually a business is asking, how can we make sure that our employees are healthy and happy and secure? How can we make sure that we're treating our customers fairly and giving them making sure that we're really understanding their needs? How can we look at our suppliers and make sure they're going to be able to thrive and grow and give us the best and newest things in the future? And how can we help these communities where we operate? How can we help them thrive? And what perhaps can we even do to solve some of the social problems which we know are facing all of the people that our businesses are touching? I said, surely that approach, that's going to make a company more healthy and more sustainable in the long term. And you might know economists don't really like changing their minds or admitting they're wrong very much. But I was pleased to say that I did get a grudging, yeah, well, maybe that's something to think about. So I'm Lizzy Hawkins. As you say, I'm currently the acting head of the Responsible Business team. And I'm going to address a question which I've already been asked, why DCMS? That's the Department for Digital, Culture, Media and Sport. Within DCMS, there is a unit called the Office for Civil Society, and within that, I am part of a team which is looking at how can we make the private sector more of a force for good. So today, I am here to talk to you about what's the government's perspective on all of this, CSR, HSR, responsible business. I'll give you a couple of examples, although I'm sure that we'll hear some really brilliant examples and we'll have a lot in the room already. And I'll talk about some of the initiatives that we're supporting. So in short, the message from government is that business done right is a force for good, and the government wants business to do business responsibly. We want the UK to be the best place to do business, but also a place where business is done best, which is a very nifty catchphrase that we're very fond of. And the reason why the government cares about this is because, as I was saying, responsible businesses are sustainable businesses which make a long-term contribution to the economy, and also you're making a valuable contribution to society above and beyond what businesses are already doing by employing people and providing goods and services and innovating and paying taxes. The government, we believe that doing business responsibly needs to be a matter for individual businesses to do. We're essentially setting the floor in terms of the laws, in terms of the corporate governance laws and the employment laws and sort of environmental laws, of what is the bare minimum. And we want to work with businesses to raise the bar on what is possible in terms of responsible behaviour. We want to be able to encourage and enable businesses to make positive decisions. So I've got 3 examples of a big, a medium and a small company, which I just think are quite nice examples, and as I say, I'm sure you'll hear more. And the first one is co-op, which I'm sure we've probably all been into a co-op at some point in our lives. They have really focused on making sure that their core business is looking at how they can have the most positive impact on sort of all of the communities that they have contact with. They look at their local communities where their businesses operate, they look at the environment, they look at their supply chain, and they look at their employees. So for example, they have partnered with an organisation called Locality, on a project called Saving Spaces, where local communities nominate a community space which is at risk for whatever reason, and then Co-op will convene and provide support to actually help rescue those community spaces and turn them into something that will be around for a lot longer. They've been focusing on waste reduction. They've taken 200 tonnes of waste out of landfill as a result of that, and obviously we all know there's far more to go for a lot of businesses in that respect. And they also have their local community fund, where 1% of some of their products go to local causes, and that's already raised £17 million. Now, I'm not saying that because Co-op are the best, because there are a huge number of companies that are doing this, that are starting this journey, but I think it's a nice example of how a big household name is really thinking about how they're affecting the communities they touch. The other example, Ricoh, may be less familiar to you. I sort of encountered them when I worked in the printing industry many moons ago. They are a workplace technology company. And the reason I mention them is because I was lucky enough last summer to go to a graduation ceremony at Ricoh. Ricoh are partnering with the Prince's Trust, and they work with the Prince's Trust to provide support for young people who have come from some very difficult backgrounds, who are participating in Prince's Trust programs to build up their confidence and their capability, give them experience, for example, in the world of work. And I was incredibly inspired to see these young people stand up in Ricoh's offices and tell their stories to an audience of families and friends, and the mums in the audience were in pieces. They were bawling their eyes out. It was wonderful to see. Strange thing to say. The reason I mention Ricoh is because they're not just doing this as a sideline. They've integrated this partnership with the Prince's Trust into their staff development programme. You cannot progress in Ricoh unless you're participating in the Prince's Trust programme in some way. If you're more junior, you can be giving CV advice to one of the young people as part of their CV clinics. If you're more senior, you can be helping manage one of the big projects that they do as part of the programme. And I think that's a really nice way of giving something to Ricoh's employees, because all the ones I spoke to, they felt it was a really valuable and important thing to be doing. And they got a lot out of seeing these young people progress. So that's sort of a medium-sized example, really integrating it and making sure you're getting a business benefit from a great social good. The final example I've got is a company that makes something very dear to my heart, beer. It's a company called Toast, and they are a social enterprise focused on reducing food waste. They make their beer out of surplus bread that would otherwise have gone to landfill, and they give their profits to organisations which are also working to reduce food waste. They're very passionate about climate change, so they are a mission-focused company. So I wanted to give some examples of some big, medium and small, and some different angles that you can take, just to show that, I mean, any business can start thinking about how they can have a more positive effect. And you don't necessarily have to do a co-op and do a full strategy. You can think about how you can make more of your employee development like Ricoh did, or your charity partnerships, or you can just start somewhere, think about how you can reduce your environmental impact. So I think that those are three really nice examples. But I want to move on to what's government doing. Now there's three things that we think are part of the process for a business to become a responsible business and have a really good social impact. Business leaders and people in the business need to believe that this is worth doing. They need to have opportunities to connect with others who can help them achieve those goals. That's why today is such a great example of that. And they need to be transparent. And when I say that, I mean something as simple as shouting about what you're doing and the benefits and inspiring others to do it, but also actually being accountable for what you're talking about, so we don't have a huge swathe of greenwashing without any real genuine impact. So let me go through each of those three things in turn and explain a bit about how some of the initiatives that the government is leading or participating in as part of that. So on building belief, we think it's important to support this amazing ecosystem that already exists of networks and sort of standards and tools which will enable businesses to have a more positive social contribution. And again, in this room today, you will have the opportunity to talk to and meet so many others that sort of won't necessarily be on my slides. It's a thriving marketplace. So the first example I'll give is we supported the Biosocial campaign, which is run by Social Enterprise UK. It's focused on encouraging consumers to buy products and services made by social enterprises and mission-focused business. Now, an interesting angle about this is that they also have a Biosocial corporate challenge where large corporates, large UK corporates, collectively commit to buy £1 billion worth of products from social enterprises and mission-led business. And I think that's good because I think discussion about responsible business can get a bit focused on it has to be a social enterprise, it has to be a particular structure, but actually the biggest corporates can have a huge positive impact on society. Every business can have a positive impact on society. So, for example, there's now more than 20 Biosocial corporate challenge companies, including Nationwide and PwC and Johnson & Johnson. The other two logos I have on there are just a couple of examples of the sorts of initiatives we're very supportive of, about enabling a business to show a robust standard that they are adhering to. We've probably all heard of B Corp. It's sort of seen as being the gold standard of what a really responsible business looks like across all of its areas. It's pretty hard to achieve though. And so that's why the other thing I have on here is the Good Business Charter, which is something that the CBI and the TUC have actually partnered to come up with, which is something that they just recently launched, which is setting out 10 strands which you will sign up to achieve as part of the charter, and if you meet the standards that they are setting out, then you will be able to say that you are a good business charter organisation. And that's around fair treatment of suppliers, treatment of employees, treatment of customers. It's that sort of ecosystem that a business exists in. So, and it's not up there like Biosocial, but it's something to work towards, and it's a sort of initiative that I think was very helpful in demonstrating that you're a good company, so we're very happy to support that. The second element I talked about is catalysing partnerships, and I think our flagship project there is called the Inclusive Economy Partnership. And the Inclusive Economy Partnership is driven by the belief that we can do more together when we bring together government, business and civil society, that we can find new ways of working in partnership to solve entrenched social problems. It was started when some CEOs of major businesses were coming to government and saying, we're doing all of this stuff on working our employees' mental health or sort of social issues, but we feel like it's very disparate. How can we draw this together, and how can we make sure that we're tapping into the incredible expertise that exists in particularly the third sector charity world about the issues that we're trying to deal with? So we created the Inclusive Economy Partnership. I'm going to call it the IEP because it's a real mouthful to talk about. And we've been focusing on 3 issues which have a massive impact on people's lives and are really holding people back from fulfilling their full potential. Those issues are mental health, young people transitioning into work, and financial inclusion and capability, so people who lack the ability to be sort of fully involved in financial services or struggle to manage their money effectively. We started off with we are led by a board of champions from civil society and business, including Nationwide and Accenture, Unilever, and others. I don't want to list them all because there's a few of them. And we are focused on what can we do to come together across those 3 challenge areas to amplify what's already out there and working well, to help scale what are good solutions that could have a bigger, broader reach, and to innovate where we find that there are gaps or weaknesses, where we can convene people and organisations to address those and try and come up with new solutions. I'll give you a couple of examples of the projects that we've had already. So one, something that we have run once already, and we're about to run another one, which is a partnership accelerator, where we have identified or asked for bids from social innovators, people who have an innovative solution within these 3 different challenge areas. And then we will work with them to use the power of the partnerships that we have in our network with businesses, with civil society, with government, to help those organisations get to the next scale in terms of their scale, get to the next level in their scaling journey. In the first phase where we ran this, it was quite experimental at first. We did a 6-month partnership accelerator working with Nesta, and we worked with 18 social innovators. Over 6 months, we exceeded our target of, I think we thought maybe 20 partnerships would be formed between these innovators. We got to 100 partnerships. They reached 50,000 more people than they would have done otherwise, and they calculated that they got about £1 million worth of support in terms of in-kind support and additional revenue over the following year. So we were really proud of how that worked, and we are running another partnership accelerator at the moment. Another project which just shows the sort of breadth of types of work that have emerged from this partnership model is Nationwide decided to launch, based on what they'd learnt from the work with the IEP, a £3 million competition to identify and scale up digital solutions to help people improve their financial capability. It's called Open Banking for Good. It's just, they've now brought 6 organisations to commercial readiness and they're now looking how we can roll those out and make those available and plug those into the wider FinTech for Good ecosystem. We are always interested in people who are interested in getting involved in what we have, what we are doing on the Inclusive Economy Partnership. So I'll plug this at the end, but there's a lot more information about what we're doing on our website, inclusiveeconomypartnership.gov.uk. Have a look, sign up. We're always keen to bring people into the community that we are building. Finally, I talked about building transparency. And for us, organisations and events like this, brilliant. We want to make sure that we are doing more to hardwire the transparency into the broader business financial investment system. We've got 2 initiatives that we are focusing on at the moment. The first one is something that came out of sorry, I've just realised I'm getting a bit into the civil service weeds on this. There was a mission-led business review in 2016. Feel free to have a look. One of the recommendations was businesses are feeling constrained by company law, and they think that actually they are not allowed to have a social mission alongside commitments around being a financially viable organisation. I'm paraphrasing. So we developed a tool called Purposely, which is a set of questions which enables you to come up with a set of model articles which you can incorporate into your company's articles, which will enshrine your company's mission into your company's articles, so that you can be more confident that if you move on from the company or sell the company, that that mission will be enshrined in your corporate articles. And we wanted to make it clear that actually that's something that people can do already. That's something that is already permissible in the company law framework. The other angle is about how can we develop more robust frameworks for measuring social impact? Ultimately, we would love for an investor to be able to make a robust decision based not just on the financial returns that they can read from the financial information, but on an equally robust assessment of what the social impact is of what they are investing in. At the moment, I don't know if any of you have to do any impact reporting for investors. It's the people I spoke. It's a bit of a nightmare. Everyone has different systems. It's incredibly fragmented. So we are working with the Impact Investing Institute, which is something established last year to develop more of a culture of social impact investing in the UK. We are working with them to see what we can do to foster more coalescence of that incredibly fragmented landscape so that people can be making a more meaningful decision, and we can get away from these suspicions of greenwashing, or I heard the term rainbow washing the other day in relation to the UN Sustainable Development Goals, that we can actually make sure that this impact is meaningful. So those are really the three elements that we're focusing on in the work that we do to raise the bar in terms of what we can encourage and enable business to do and unlocking the social value of businesses. So obviously you need a wrap up what's next slide. I could not get the link to the IEP website to go blue. My technological skills ended at that point, but have a look at the IEP. As I say, really welcome people to get involved. Now, talking to businesses who are on this journey about how they can become a more socially impactful business, they all talk about the value of networks to get ideas and build up confidence and get inspired. Today is a great example. You will hear from some brilliant organisations. I've put up a couple of other examples that I know. There's an organisation, if you're based in London, called the Heart of the City. If you're a small organisation, they're funded by the City of London Corporation to work with small businesses to help them begin to understand how they can think more about being a responsible business. They've got a load of great resources, which they will shortly be making freely available. So keep an eye out for that. There's also, if you're a bigger organisation, very well established for decades, business in the community. If you look on their website, they've also got a load of great resources about how to think more about embedding responsible business into your organisation. And again, another example of one of the accreditations that's out there is the London Mayor of London has a good work standard which sets out sort of foundation level and then two tiers. I can't remember if it's silver or gold or platinum or whatever, but there's a 3-tier system, and actually it's a really helpful way of going through and helping you take a rounded picture of what you can be thinking about as part of this journey to understanding how you can have the most positive impact that you can. And finally, please share your stories and talk to other people about why this is important. The more businesses are telling us as government that they think that this is important, that they want to see us doing more about this, then the more mandate we have to do more. So it's up to all of us. We can all do more together. So thank you very much for listening to me, and I don't know if I have a couple of minutes for questions before I am hurried off.
You do, because as much as I'd like to claw back some time, I'd rather give you your allotted time. So a couple of questions for Lizzy. Gentleman there, project.
I'll try. I'm a social entrepreneur, and my experience is that actually there's a very long tail of enterprises that dabble in this very lightly and give on a very limited scale, actually, which is beneficial to them and very time consuming for the recipient charity or social enterprise. What do you think government can do to get the tail to start coming? It sounds like you've got a lot of work with gold standard organisations, but what can we do to lift the laggards, if you like, which I think is quite a lot?
Can we just repeat that just for the purposes of the camera? I think the question is, what can we do to get those who are not already convinced into the tent?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question, because it's a challenge that we talk about a lot ourselves. At the moment, we find we're sort of at the stage where we're doing a lot of preaching to the converted, and we're bringing people along the spectrum who are already quite far advanced. And at the moment, I would say that what we are doing in terms of building belief, creating platforms, sending a signal from government that actually we think this is important, that will shove some people further along that spectrum. But I agree, there is more that we can be doing to focus on those organisations. But I think the stage that we are at in this movement, it's about how can we say really celebrate and trumpet the achievements of the companies that have really started on this journey and are doing a great job of it.
One more? Gentleman there, project.
I'm Kevin, I'm Chief Executive of one of those tails. We're very successful at working with our university, so we're a mental health charity, and we provide student placements, so that our next generation of leaders and managers that are coming into the private sector and public sector can obviously get their degree and qualification and then get their employment. How is government going to help me and my team to bring in now the employees that are already there through CSR? We want to embrace it, but we don't have the capacity ourselves to both manage the next workforce coming through, which we are party to their education and qualification, and then all of this time that's available from employees within the public sector and private sector.
Bit more of a complicated question for the camera there, but I think what can the government do to help the smaller employers actually apply this art rather than science?
Yeah, I think again we don't want to reinvent the wheel. There are a lot of really good resources out there. I think that there is something more that we can do as government to create platforms for those resources so that you know where you can go to get that support to help manage that situation. Does that make sense? Okay.
Okay, that was
Okay.
a nice brief answer. Thank you very, very much indeed.
Pleasure.
Are you able to stay?
I will be able to stay for a few more minutes, but I do have to scoot off shortly.
Not here for the coffee break.
Not here for the coffee break, I'm afraid.
However, we can get in touch with you. You have invited us to take part, so therefore
Yeah, absolutely.
you might get.
Yeah, please do. And I'm on LinkedIn as well, so if you see me today and you want to plug in,
Sure.
drop me a line, say you saw me, and
Yeah.
happy to connect.
Thank you ever so much. A round of applause.